Have a seat, today's tea is bitter, but still sweeter than the price the villain in this story is about to pay. May's red ledger has just turned to a new page. Are you ready to claim justice with Reddit revenge tales? Would you burn your life down to tell the truth or keep the lie to keep the lights on? I cheated on my husband with my boss. 1 month. The night Luke asked, "Is there someone else?" my stomach dropped. Our kids were in the hallway listening. Suddenly this house didn't feel like home. Bills still do dinner on the stove shame at our table. HR doesn't know. I quit at sunrise. No speeches. Badge. Surrendered number blocked. For the kid's sake, I'm staying if he'll have me. He wants receipts, not roses. So here's my line in the sand. I'll earn back trust 1 day at a time or pack my bags tonight. If you were me, which price would you pay? I am Sandere Johnson. I live in a quiet suburb with my husband Luke, and our 2 kids, one in college, one in high school. I am a sales executive at the bank, good at numbers, better at reading people, always chasing a target. Eric Pierce is the CEO, the top office, the floor I rarely visit unless the work is spotless. Most weekdays start the same. I stand at the kitchen island, pour coffee into 2 scratched mugs, sign a form, slide a lunch bag across the counter, and nudge shoes into the hallway. Luke and I move like a relay team. We trade keys updates and yawns. We are polite. We are exhausted. On the drive to the bank, I review notes, open my inbox, and swallow the small ache I do not name. Inside the lobby, the marble is cold and the elevator dings on schedule. I keep the machine running. I keep my head down. I keep us paid. But there is a part of me that wants someone to notice the woman behind the calendar. I did not say that out loud. I just kept moving faster than my own heart could keep up. That same day of coffee and List's late afternoons settled in like a weight. At the bank's 10th floor, behind a glass wall that hummed with fluorescent light, I sat with Eric Pierce, the CEO, reviewing sales numbers for a client meeting. It was just us at the table. The air conditioner clicked on. My phone buzzed once and went still. He asked about my son's exam and my daughter's practice details he should not have remembered, but did. He slid a bottle of water toward me and said I looked tired. I said I was fine, and heard the lie in my own voice. He leaned in to circle a figure on my screen. His sleeve brushed my arm. I did not move. He did not either. It was nothing 2 coworkers couldn't explain, and it was everything I had been starving for. We finished the review 5 minutes late. We stood to leave. At the door, our hands reached the same handle close enough to feel the heat of skin. I told myself it was only a moment. I let that moment stand. By Friday night at the bank, the halls were hollow, and the cleaning cart squeaked once, then went quiet. On the 10th floor, with Eric 3 steps behind me, I pressed the elevator close button and did not step back. The door sealed with a soft thud. I turned my phone face down and powered it off. In the garage, the concrete held the day's heat, and my hands shook on my keys. He said my name like a question. I answered it by unlocking the passenger door and sliding in. We drove without the radio a mile that felt like a confession. In a room off the highway with thin curtains and a humming air unit, I set my purse on a chair and turned the deadbolt. He reached for my wrist and I did not pull away. I reached for his collar and I did not think. It was fast and reckless, and louder than the voice that said, "Go home." I woke before dawn and watched the light push under the curtain. I left the key on the dresser and the shame on my skin. I drove home in silence and told no one. The next week picked up where that door closed. At the bank during lunch, I sat in the car on level 3 and answered his messages with one-word replies. After that call, I walked back in with a fresh smile, and a stomach that would not settle. On Wednesday at 5, we left by different doors, and met 2 blocks over where no one from our floor parks. I kept my wedding ring on. He kept his voice low. Once in a quiet room off the lobby, I locked the knob, and stood too close as the copier cycled, and then stilled. Another night I said I was running to Target, and took the exit that was not mine. The places were small and forgettable. The risk was not. I deleted threads and cleared calendars. I told myself it was only a month, and then I would stop. At home the dishwasher hummed, and Luke asked if I needed help with the trash. I said I had it, and he said good. I watched him tie the bag neat and practiced. He did not ask why my passcode had changed. That mercy made the floor tilt under my feet. Mercy doesn't feel soft when it lives on a nightstand. That month our bedroom held the clues I pretended weren't there. My phone slept face down on my side, a new passcode I couldn't remember. A gas receipt from 2 exits past home rested beside the lamp where he leaves his watch. He lifted it, read the timestamp, and set it back without a word. The ceiling fan clicked every 3rd rotation. He asked if I changed perfume. I laughed too quickly and buried the blazer deep in the hamper. A bank alert lit his screen for a charge near the office garage after hours. He tapped it once, then locked the phone, and folded laundry shirts stacked too neatly for how his hands must have shaken. I lay on top of the covers and stared at the hairline crack in our ceiling, the one we keep promising to fix. He sat on the edge of the bed and tied the same knot in his shoelace he makes every morning, then untied it like he needed the motion to think. When the house finally went quiet, he said we should step out and breathe. I nodded because I had no better answer. The receipt by the lamp was still in my head when we stepped outside. On our street after dark, with Luke on my right, and porch lights blinking on in a row, we took the long loop past the mailboxes. Sprinklers hissed on the corner. A dog barked twice, then gave up. He kept a steady pace, and I matched it, palms damp, phone silent in my pocket. He asked about the tuition draft and the brake pads, the language of people who keep a life standing. Then his voice lowered. He said he missed the version of me who sat on the couch and let her shoulders drop. He asked when I last slept without waking at 3. I said I was fine, and even I heard the lie. Under a streetlight that buzzed like it needed replacing, he stopped and faced me. If something is wrong, I can take hard news, he said. I can't live in guesses. I stared at the seam where curb meets asphalt, and counted breaths until I could speak. I am tired, I said, and the words felt cheap in the quiet. He nodded once and kept walking. I followed one step late with the night heavy in my throat. The streetlight buzz from our walk was still in my ears when we came back inside. In our bedroom that night, with the ceiling fan ticking every 3rd turn, I sat on the edge of the bed and pretended to scroll. Luke stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, the kind of quiet that makes a person honest. He crossed the room, took my phone from my hand, powered it down, and set it face up on my nightstand like a small, steady boundary. Let it ring here, he said. I nodded, because saying anything else would split me in 2. He went to check the kids closed their door softly, then came back and lay on his side of the mattress, without reaching for me or turning away. The ice maker snapped once in the kitchen. The house settled. I stared at the hairline crack on the ceiling and counted breaths, then counted the lies I'd told to survive a month. I should never have started. Luke's breathing evened out. Mine did not. When he finally spoke, it was almost morning. Tomorrow, he said into the dark, I need real answers. I closed my eyes and felt the word tomorrow land like a weight. His tomorrow followed me down the hall. In the kitchen the next morning, sunlight pooled on tile and the coffee cooled in our mugs. I stood at the counter. Luke sat across from me, elbows on wood ring clouded with fingerprints. The kettle ticked as it cooled. The kids slept in. He did not stack evidence or pace. He slid my blazer onto the chair between us, the one I hid in the hamper last night. This smelled like a story I was not in, he said, voice low, steady. I gripped the chair back. He named late returns the way I flinched at my own phone. I am not angry, he said. I am lost like I was dropped into a book without the first chapters. I said the bills were paid and deadlines were heavy. The words sounded thin in our bright, ordinary kitchen. He turned his mug once. I have one question, he said. I want a straight answer. Not now. Tonight. When the house is quiet. He rinsed his cup and set it down with care. No more guessing, he said, and the room waited for night. His promise of no more guessing followed me all day. That night in our living room, after the kids' doors clicked shut, we sat on opposite ends of the couch, like careful strangers. The TV was on mute, a baseball game, flickering with no sound. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen. I set my phone face up on the coffee table and folded my hands so I wouldn't reach for it. Luke leaned forward, elbows on his knees, wedding ring catching the lamplight. He did not stack evidence or raise his voice. He cleared his throat and asked one thing steady and plain. Is there someone else? The words landed between us like a heavy glass, clear and unforgiving. I felt the heat rise under my skin. My mouth opened and closed around air. He waited. He did not rescue me from the silence. A clock on the wall ticked louder than it had any right to. I looked at the rug fibers at the remote at his hands. He said my name as if he was setting it down carefully. Sandere. I need the truth. I nodded once the smallest admission I had ever made. He didn't move. Say it, he said, and the room held its breath. The room was still holding its breath when I finally used mine. Same couch, same lamp, the TV black now. With Luke across from me, shoulders squared, I put both feet flat on the floor so I wouldn't float. Yes, I said, and my voice came out clear enough to hurt. There is someone else. He didn't flinch, so I kept going before I lost my nerve. It was Eric Pierce. His name sounded wrong in our house. Luke's jaw tightened. He pressed his palms to his thighs, then let them go. A chair leg scraped the hardwood as he stood and sat again like his body needed the motion to survive the sentence. How long? He asked, eyes on the dark window. 1 month, I said. It's over. He tapped his ring against the coffee table, once a small, bright sound. Did you love him? I shook my head hard enough to sting. No. I loved being noticed. I hated being this tired. He looked at me as if I had handed him a box with a hole in the bottom. Why him, he asked. Because he was there, I said. And I felt the shame rise like floodwater. He nodded once. Then we're not done talking. The night turned sharper. The room turned sharper after I said Eric's name. Same couch, same lamp, the TV cold and black. Luke leaned forward, fingers laced ring catching the light like a warning. Where did you see him? He asked. I swallowed. Not here, I said. Not our life. His jaw worked once. Did you stop? Yes, I said. It's over. He set the remote on the table hard enough to rattle the batteries. You blew a hole in us for a man who signs my paycheck, he said, voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. I stood too fast. He stood, too, then braced a hand on the doorway not to trap me, just to hold the room together. Look at me, he said. I did. Was any of it real? I shook my head. I loved the attention. I hated the woman I was becoming. He nodded once, eyes bright and furious. "So fix the woman," he said. "Don't feed the fire and call it heat." I reached for the back of a chair to steady myself. "I will do anything I said." And the words tasted like steel. The hallway creaked. He glanced toward the bedrooms. "Then be ready to say that again when they wake up." His warning about the kids was still in the air, when the floorboard in the hall cried out. Saturday night, same living room lights, low the dishwasher humming. Our daughter stood barefoot by the doorway, hair pulled into a crooked bun, eyes wide and wet. Our son stood behind her, one hand on the frame like it could hold him up. "Are you getting a divorce?" she asked, voice steady and frightened. Luke answered first. "We are talking," he said. "We are telling the truth." I felt the room tilt. "I heard your dad," I said, and both faces flinched. "I am ending what hurt us." Our daughter moved closer and put her palm on my forearm. "Then end it all the way," she said. Luke watched me, not blinking. I heard my own breath and the tick of the clock above the mantel. I said the only thing that anchored the floor. "I will quit the bank," I said. "I will be done with Eric. First thing in the morning." Our son's shoulders dropped a fraction. Luke's voice stayed low. "Say it again," he said, "so we all hear it." I repeated it, each word slow. The room went still, waiting for morning. The room had been waiting for morning, and morning came. In our kitchen, before the kids woke up with the coffee maker coughing into the pot, I opened my laptop while Luke sat across from me, elbows on the table, eyes clear and tired. I typed a short resignation. Personal reasons, earliest possible exit. No explanations, no story. I set my employee badge on the counter so it would not touch my purse again. Luke didn't rush me. He watched my hands and the little tremor I couldn't hide. "Say it out loud," he said, soft, but unbending. "I'm quitting the bank today," I said, and the words steadied like a chair under me. I moved the cursor to send and stopped. He reached across and put one finger on the corner of the laptop, not to push me, just to hold the moment still. "Do what you said," he whispered. I clicked send. The sound was nothing, a tiny whoosh and everything. I took out my phone, blocked Eric's number, and deleted the thread without rereading a single line. Luke nodded once, not triumphant, just present. "We'll tell them after school," he said. I slid the badge into a plain envelope and felt the house breathe, then held my own breath for what would land next. After that email, I drove to the bank alone. Mid-morning, the garage was half empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead and made the concrete look colder than it was. I sat in the car long enough to read HR's reply, polite surprised, asking if I could talk. I answered with the same sentence I had said at our table: "I need to prioritize my family." A minute later, a forward to Eric appeared. Another minute, a one-word approval from the executive office. I did not reply. I walked in through the side door kept to the stairwell and let myself into my floor, where the copier was whining itself awake. At my desk, I unplugged the charger, slid a framed photo into my tote, and left the rest. I placed my badge and laptop on HR's counter with the resignation printout clipped on top. No meeting. No small talk. On the way out, I paused by the glass wall of the conference room and looked at the chair where I'd been seen for the wrong reasons. I did not take a last look longer than a breath. Back in the car, the seatbelt clicked, and the radio stayed off. My hands found the wheel, then stayed there. I drove home with nothing playing, except the choice I had finally made. The radio was still off when I pulled into our driveway. Mid-afternoon. The house was quiet, the dryer thumping somewhere down the hall. I found Luke at the kitchen table, sunlight on the wood, 2 mugs gone cold. I set my toad on a chair and said what we both needed first. I resigned. He looked at my face before he looked at my phone. I opened my inbox, showed the approval, laid the screen between us. "And Eric?" he asked. I scrolled to the contact-pressed block while he watched, then held down the message thread until it shook and disappeared. He did not thank me. He turned the phone so it faced up and left it there. "Say it to me," he said. "It is over." My voice steadied after the second word. He nodded, not kind, not cruel, just present, and slid his hand back across the table like he was testing how close he could come without being burned. I told him I had left my badge, my charger, my access. He asked if I was going to be okay without the work. I said I did not know. The dryer clicked off. We stood there with the quiet and waited for the evening to tell us what came next. His silence at the table followed us down the hall. That night in our bedroom with the fan moving slow air and the street outside settling, we took our places like people who remember how. He lay on his side back to the window. I sat against the headboard and answered the only question I could control, leaving my phone face up on his nightstand charger coiled beside it. "If it rings here," I said, and he nodded without reaching. We talked around the edges, at first grocery lists and ride pickups the way married people circle a fire. Then Luke said he could try if I could live without secrets, if I could tell him before the spiral. I told him I could try one day at a time, that I would rather tell the worst thing than let him guess the small ones. He slid his ring along his finger, not off just enough to feel the edge, then let it sit where it belonged. I lay down on top of the covers, shoes off heart, loud. He turned the lamp off and stayed awake beside me. When sleep finally came for him, I whispered into the dark that I would be here when morning checked our work. When sleep finally took him beside me, I promised the dark I would still be here when morning checked our work. Morning did not go easy. In the kitchen with coffee, dripping and a pan heating too fast, it was just the 2 of us across the island. No TV, no phones. I cracked 2 eggs and missed the bowl with 1 shell. Luke watched my hands, then my face. He didn't circle. "I need facts that don't make movies in my head," he said. "Can you give me that?" I nodded. 1 month. Not our house, not our bed. The pan hissed and a curl of smoke lifted. He reached past me and killed the burner metal clacking against metal, the kind of small noise that says a lot. "Was it here in town?" he asked. "Yes. After work. Mostly." He leaned on the counter like he'd run a mile. Why him I told the truth I hated. Because he looked at me like I wasn't just a list. He closed his eyes, once then opened them. "No more lies in this kitchen," he said. I slid the ruined eggs into the trash and met his eyes. "Ask what you need," I said, and braced for the next question. The burn smell from breakfast followed us down the hall. That night in our bedroom with curtains drawn, and a car rolling past outside, Luke stood by the dresser, and I sat at the foot of the bed so I would not pace. He turned the lock not to trap me to keep the house out. "I need a timeline," he said. "No pictures, days and places." I nodded. 4 weeks. Wednesdays and Fridays most. After work. A motel off the highway once. My car 2 blocks from the garage once. I said I had a late deck. His jaw set. A frame tipped and clicked against the wood. He steadied it with 2 fingers. "Did you bring him near here?" "No." "Did you text? From this room?" "No." I said the street names like addresses to something I refused to keep. "What did you feel when you walked back in?" he asked. "Small," I said. "Sick. More afraid of you guessing than of telling you." He exhaled through his nose, long and rough. "If you feel that again, you tell me before you move an inch." I said I would, and meant it. He turned off the lamp and let the dark listen. He stayed standing in the dark after that last question, and by Tuesday night, we let the dark stop deciding. In the kitchen after dinner, just the two of us, at the table window, a square of black clock, steady, we said what we could live with. Luke set my phone in the middle screen awake. "No vanishing," he said. "If it dings where I can see your face." I turned off Face ID, typed the numbers while he watched, slid the phone back to center. "Ask anything," I said. He rubbed his ring and nodded. "If you are late, I get a text before my head writes a movie." I said yes. "If you feel that pull, you say it right then." I said yes again. He reached for the phone, not to police me, to place it on his side for the night. "One day," he said. Then another. I took his hand across the wood and did not dress it up. "I am here," I said. He squeezed once, let go, and left the screen glowing like a porch light we both needed. The glow of that screen stayed with us. By Friday morning, in the driveway with the engine off, just the two of us in the car, I held my phone and stared at a number my therapist list had given me months ago, and I never used. "Call now, Luke," said, not pushing, just steady. I hit dial and put it on speaker so I wouldn't retreat into myself. A calm voice asked for my name and a good time to talk. "I need help." I said the words strange and right. We set a first appointment. I ended the call and exhaled into my hands. "Thank you," Luke said, eyes on the windshield, for saying it out loud. We drove nowhere for a minute, the vents whispering, the neighborhood quiet. Back inside, I moved the charger to his nightstand without being asked, and left my phone there when I showered. When I dressed, he was sitting on the end of the bed tie, draped over his knee, looking at me like a person he might not lose. "Text me if you're late," he said, "before my head writes the worst." "I will," I said. He nodded once. "Small things. On purpose. Small things. On purpose." That line from the car stayed with me into the laundry room later that week. In the small room off our kitchen after dinner, with the dryer buzzing and warm air fogging my glasses, it was just me and Luke, shoulder to doorframe, sorting towels. I reached into the basket and pulled out the blazer I had buried. A trace of cologne rose like a hand on my throat. I held it too long. Luke saw my face change. He crossed the tile in 2 steps and killed the dryer. The sudden quiet rang. "Say it," he said, steady. I'm triggered. I managed, and felt my knees go soft. He didn't ask for proof. He opened the back door to let in cold air, took the blazer from my hands, stuffed it into a black bag, and tied a hard, simple knot. I gripped the counter edge and breathed through the ache behind my ribs. He set a glass of water by my hand and waited for me to drink. "You're here," he said, like he was reminding both of us. "I'm here," I answered, and let the bag sit by the door like a line we would not cross again. The tied bag by the back door was still there when we sat at the kitchen table that night. House-quiet fridge humming the clock, refusing to hurry. Just us across the wood, hands empty. "I won't be a doormat," Luke said, voice even. "I won't be a liar," I answered, and felt the sting of saying it plain. He reached into the junk drawer and pulled out an old envelope, clicked a pen, and waited. "No speeches," he said. "One sentence we both can live with." I thought of the laundry room, the cold air, the knot. I said, "We tell the hard thing before it grows teeth." He nodded and wrote it slow and dark, then pushed the pen to me. I printed my first name and handed the pen back. He added his. No ceremony, no signatures to frame. He slid the envelope into the drawer and shut it with a small, solid thud. I took the spare key off my ring and set it in his palm. He set the house key back in mine. 2 nights a week we sit here and actually talk, he said. Say when I answered. You'll know he said, and let the quiet keep us honest. The envelope thud from last night still sat in my chest when our first evening to actually talk arrived. That night in the hallway outside the living room, the stair light off and curtain seams pale, it was just Luke and me on the couch, knees close, coffee table clear, except for my phone face down. A buzz cut through the quiet. Then another, an unknown number. Heat climbed my neck. I flipped the phone and saw not Eric, but a news alert with his last name in bold. My hands went cold. Luke did not look away. He slid the phone to the middle, face up. Look at me. Not that he said. I set both palms flat on my thighs. The buzz kept going. He pressed silence, left it there like a dare we had already accepted. Say where you are, he said. Here, I said. Not in that building. I unfollowed the bank feed, turned off alerts with him watching. The phone went black. If it wakes us again, he said we answer together. I leaned back and let the quiet hold. The night stayed on our side, and I wanted it to stay. That quiet had a price, and we counted it in the morning. In the kitchen, Saturday light on the table, just as a stack of envelopes. My laptop warm, a pencil rolling under Luke's thumb. He slid the mortgage across. We can keep the lights on, he said, but not if it breaks you. I opened an old resume and took a breath that felt like new ground. I can take something smaller, I said. Different company. Day hours. He circled a due date and did not lecture. If you need time, take time, he said. Pride does not pay the bill. I sent one email to a recruiter whose card I kept in a drawer and closed the laptop like it might bite. He rested his palm on the papers, not to pin me, to steady the table. If you are late, text, he said, before my head writes the worst. I nodded. If you are scared, say it before it takes root. He nodded back. We stacked the envelopes in one neat pile. The pencil stopped moving. We sat with the cost, and with our choice. Time taxes silence. We decided not to owe it more. The neat stack from morning was still in my head when evening came. In our kitchen at dinner time, just us across the island, the skillet hissed my phone face up by the peppermill. I plated chicken with hands steady on purpose. Luke dropped ice into 2 glasses and set one in front of me. Are you staying because of the kids, he asked, or because you choose me? I turned the burner off so nothing masked the answer. I am staying because I choose you, I said, and the room held it. He sat. We ate without rush. When the phone buzzed once with a number, I did not know I did not touch it. He watched my eyes, not the screen. Where are you now? He asked. Quiet. Here, I said, and let the heat fade. He pushed his plate back, reached across, tapped the face of my phone once, as if to test the center of a bridge. If it rings, we listen together. I nodded. The glass sweated. The room did not break. Tomorrow would ask if tonight was real. I was ready to answer. Whatever called next came after dishes. That night in the living room with the shade cord still, it was only us on the couch knees almost touching the phone on the table. A red voicemail icon waited. No name, just a number. Panic climbed, but I kept my hands still. Luke pressed speaker firm, not dramatic, and we listened. A polite voice asked me to confirm a time for an exit interview next week. No gossip, no threat, just the administrative after of a month that wrecked our house. I let out a breath I had been holding down. Do you want me in the car, he asked, or do you go alone and call me before you walk in? I stared at the red dot and chose what steadied my body. Sit in the lot, I said. I will walk in. I will walk back out. He nodded and set the phone on the table like we agreed. "Then we are done," he said. The icon stayed lit. I let it sit until morning had its say, and I planned the 2 words I would text from the lobby. Later that week, the little red dot from that voicemail followed me like a drumbeat. Morning Bank parking lot, just Luke in the driver's seat and me beside him. 2 coffee lids clicking open and shut. The vents blew cold. He didn't fill the silence. He took my hand once and let it go so I could breathe. "Text me when you're in the room," he said. I nodded, opened the door, and felt the air hit my face. Inside, I kept my eyes on the floor tiles and my name badge in an envelope. I signed where they pointed and didn't offer a story. No speeches, no defense. The elevator dinged once behind me, and I chose not to turn. When it was done, I sent 1 word to the car, done. Luke was waiting with the engine off. He leaned across and unlocked my door like it mattered to get it right today. I slid in and set the envelope on the dash. He didn't pry it open. He looked at me instead. "You walked in," he said. "You walked back out." I nodded. My hands shook on the cup. He rested his palm on the console, not touching, just there. And I let my breathing catch up to my choices. The envelope on the dash was still in my head when the clock rolled past 3. Bedroom dark shade edges paled just us, under the hour that wakes couples who are trying. A dream yanked me up hard, heart-racing mouth. Dry. The old panic offered silence. And a secret. I chose the other thing. "I am not okay," I said before it could grow teeth. Luke sat up, clicked the lamp, reached for the glass on his nightstand. "Say where you are," he said. "Right here," I managed. He slid closer without crowding and held out his hand palm up the way you hold what can break. I set my phone there and let my shoulders drop. He did not check it. He set it face up between us and waited until my breath settled. "Wake me every time," he said, "before your head goes anywhere." I nodded because I could do that at 3 in the morning when the house forgets we are trying. The lamp went off. The air units cycled once and went quiet. My body stayed where it was supposed to be, beside the man who wanted the truth before the story. By morning, the fan was a soft hush, and the porch light was off. In the kitchen, just us and 2 warm mugs. I set my phone face up and met his eyes. Here is what I know now. Truth beats guessing. Say the hard thing before it turns into a story that eats your house. Stay because you choose the person, not because you fear the paperwork. Small, steady acts repair what grand speeches cannot. A phone on the table. A call made with someone listening. A door you walk into and back out of with your head up. Boundaries are not punishment. They are the rail you hold when the stairs feel steep. Ask for help sooner than pride wants. It is not weakness to say I am not okay at 3 in the morning. Dignity matters on both sides. He is not a doormat. I am not a liar. Our kids learn love from what we do when no one is clapping. We left what harmed us. We kept what could heal. Forgiveness is not amnesia. It is a decision with conditions that must be honored again tomorrow. If you are standing in a quiet kitchen like mine, start small on purpose. Put the phone where your face is. Tell one true sentence. Let the day hear you choose your home. All right. Let May be painfully clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. And it showed up fast. A stranger asked you something stupid at a bar, you said no, and Mark turned you from wife to suspect. That's red flag number 1, suspicion. Without proof. Then he started the classic toxic combo, moving the goalpost, demanding the truth after you already gave it, and treating your calm as evidence. That's not concern. That's control wearing a suit. And when someone blocks the exit, when your "I need air" becomes "Why are you running?" That's not love. That's a power test. The moment he rewrote the story, you pushed me, you escalated. That's gaslighting 1. Oh, 1. Not loud, not messy, just cold, tidy cruelty. So here's your takeaway straight up. Your no is a full sentence. You don't audition for basic respect. You don't negotiate reality with someone who benefits from you doubting yourself. If you're hearing this and your stomach drops, trust that. Red flags don't get greener with time. To the villain of this story, karma doesn't need your permission. It just keeps receipts. And to you, sweetheart, this debt may clears it. But remember, these eyes are always watching. Don't let your name end up on May's blacklist next episode. Hit subscribe, because around here, justice doesn't show up late. It shows up ready. A final note from the library. While these stories find their roots in the halls of Reddit, they are artistically reimagined to speak to the heart. Any likeness to reality is mere coincidence. The emotions, however, are very real. Walk with empathy and let justice lead the way. Thank you for watching.